We're live.
Thanks, Richard. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Alcohol and Gambling Licensing Subcommittee. The first item is appointment of the chairman. Is there a proposer? Councillor Humphreys, thank you. A seconder?
Thank you. Elizabeth? Councillor Bowen?
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Councillor Sargent, the chair's yours.
Well, that was hard work. Morning, everybody. I am very pleased to see we've got some objectors and the general public have stepped up to the plate on this one. Declaration of interest from anybody? Deathly silent, so I assume no. Move to introductions. I'm chairing this. I'm Brian Sargent. Will the other councillors introduce themselves?
I'm Councillor Rosie Humphreys.
And hopefully you can hear me, Councillor Lizzie Bowen.
We can hear you, Councillor Bowen.
Good.
We move to preliminary questions. Have all the parties received a copy of the agenda for today's meeting?
Yes.
Have you seen the copy of the procedure that the subcommittee will be following today? Are there any questions or issues that anyone wishes to raise regarding the procedure?
No, not the procedure.
Are there any preliminary issues anyone wishes to raise? We'll move on then.
Sorry. We're just assuming you mean that we'll get a chance to speak later about any issues we have.
Of course.
But yeah.
Is
Okay.
that Mary Reeves, is it?
Yeah, so it's Mairead and Sarah. We're both here together.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to invite the licensing officer to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so the purpose of the report is to consider an application for variation to a premises licence in accordance with Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003, the Act made by Green King Brewing and Retailing Limited, the applicant, in respect of Spinney Hill Pub, Kettering Road, Northampton, NN3 6LR. The application, which can be found at Appendix A, was received by West Northamptonshire Council on the 7th of May 2024. It is recommended that the Licensing Subcommittee consider the application for the premises licence variation put before them. The reason for the recommendation is to accord with legislation and the policy of the Council. The premises are a public house in an urban location in the Spinney Hill / Parklands area of Northampton. The current licence includes the following licensable activities. This covers the sale of alcohol by retail for consumption on and off the premises, live music indoor only, recorded music indoor only, facilities for dancing indoor only, and late night refreshment indoors also. It also covers entertainment similar to that listed indoors. A full copy of the current premises licence, along with its associated timings and conditions, can be found attached at Appendix B. The designated premises supervisor is a Mr. Joshua Teasdale, a holder of a personal licence issued by Blackpool Council. The proposed variation seeks to amend the licensable area to include an outdoor bar area. There is no proposal at this stage to increase or alter any timings for licensable activities listed on the licence. The issues and choices: if relevant representations are received, then within 20 working days following the end of the consultation period, the licensing authority must hold a hearing to consider them. It must take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. The options available to the subcommittee today are to grant the variation in whole or part, grant the variation in whole or part and modify the conditions of the licence, including adding any new conditions, or reject the variation in whole or part. In attendance today, my understanding is we've got Green King, several members of their staff. We should have Glenn Sullivan, who's the operations manager, Angela Sinclair, the business development manager, Hannah Loynes, the licensing manager, and Josh Teasdale, the General Manager. We also have Ewan McGregor from TLT Solicitors representing on their behalf. We also have a number of residents in attendance. Those who have responded formally to us are Steve and Sophia Pugh, Mairead Swallow and Sarah Vass. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now with the presentations from each of the parties. Who goes first on this?
It's the applicant, Chair.
The applicant. So that'd be Glenn, would it?
I'm afraid,
legal?
Councillor, it's going to be me. My name's Ewan McGregor. I'm from
Morning,
TLT. Good morning, and good morning to you all. And thank you to your officer for introducing the report and also introducing those from Green King who are in attendance. I've also, in addition to your report, I sent over some very brief submissions. It was a 3-page document with, I think, 3 photos at the end of it. And I can see that Eleanor is nodding her head. And so hopefully that has all been received and circulated to everybody on this call. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
I don't propose to read the submissions, but I'm going to follow the structure of the submissions that I've sent. I'm not going to take too long, but I'll deal with it in this way. I'm going to deal with the application and the applicant, the position of the responsible authorities, and then the representors. And I'm aware that 2 or 3 of those are on the call. And then I think at the end of the process, if I'm right, I get an opportunity just to summarise our position at the end. And again, I can promise you that I won't take too long with that. In short, this application is solely limited to the licensing of an external bar in an existing garden at the Spinney Mill. And we provided you with some photographs at the back of my brief submissions. These are very much community premises, a community pub at the heart of the local community. And Green King have invested heavily, both literally and metaphorically, in the pub in recent years. The pub caters for a broad range of the local community. It supports local schools and it supports the community centre. And for many years, they've raised money for a local charity that you may be familiar with, which I think is the Cynthia Spencer Hospice, as well as supporting a local charity, Macmillan Cancer Research. It provides local employment for up to 42 people. And in the last 18 months, Green King have invested financially within these premises. There was a refurbishment of the pub that obtained approval from the licensing authorities, some updates to the plans, and that was approved back in January 2023. And part of that redevelopment included the installation of an external bar in the garden. And the total investment is in the region of £700,000, and the external bar itself has cost £100,000 and is in situ. It has not yet been used because we haven't had the consent from you as an authority to use it, but you'll see from the photographs what it looks like. As an overview, post-COVID, Green King, in line with operators up and down the country, have invested heavily in external bars. And it's a common theme of operators, and it's also a common theme of applications that we have made up and down the country. There are benefits for both customers and also for the promotion of the licensing objectives. And so far as customers are concerned, it assists with customer flow, it provides better customer service, and overall there is an enhanced customer experience. And from a licensing objective perspective, the experience of Green King, and I think it's fair to say of other operators that we have acted for, is that in and of themselves, external bars do not undermine the licensing objectives, and rather they help to promote and improve the promotion of licensing objectives. And there are 2 reasons for that. The first is additional security. These premises will be covered by CCTV, and they supplement the existing CCTV coverage at the pub. and they also provide additional supervision of the external areas. And you'll have seen from the submissions that we have, I sent through to you the other day, is that we have proposed 3 conditions with this application. And the first is that the external bar will close no later than 10 o'clock. That whenever the external bar is open, it will be constantly supervised by at least 1 member of staff. And that when the external bar is closed, it will be secured and made inaccessible to members of the public. Now, there is a concern that is expressed within the representations that the installation of the external bar will increase usage of the existing garden. That is not the experience of Green King up and down the country. The use of any external area in a public house or a restaurant or a cafe or a bar, as you'll know from your own experience of using hospitality premises, is that the use of those areas are very much weather dependent. They will not be used, or the external bar will not be used all day, every day, but will be used when it is deemed appropriate for the pub, when the weather is not inclement, and when customer service or the requirement to improve customer service and customer flow is it will assist in that process. I've referred to the conditions that are proposed with this application, and as I say, that they will promote the licensing objectives. And it also merits comment that there is an existing condition on the license, that there is to be no consumption of alcohol in the garden after 2300 hours, Monday to Saturday, and after 22:30, so 10:30 p.m. On a Sunday. So even if, and I'm not inviting you to reach this conclusion, is that even if the application were refused, customers would still be entitled to use the garden to consume alcohol, to consume soft drinks, to consume food, etc., up until those hours. So the installation of the external bar will not increase usage of the garden, and it will not also stop people from using the garden in the way that they do. The position of the responsible authorities, who were all served with a copy of the application, is that they have made no representations to the application, and I deal with that at paragraphs 13 and 14 of my submissions, and we say that that is both significant and also worthy of note. And your legal advisor will be aware of paragraph 9.12 of the National Guidance to Licensing Authorities. The most recent revision is December 2023. And just for the benefit of the record and for all of those on the call, it says that each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field. And in some cases, it is likely that a particular responsible authority will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to a particular licensing objective. So if you follow that through, the police have primary responsibility for the crime and disorder licensing objective, and your environmental health officer would have primary responsibility, or he'd be the primary source of information insofar as you as a committee are concerned in relation to the prevention of public nuisance, and they have made no representations to this application. So far as the residents' position is concerned, they raise a number of issues, and you will have read the representations that they have made, but they do raise a number of issues that are not relevant to this particular application, and also raise some issues that are perhaps not also relevant more widely to the licensing process, and those are in relation to car parking. The pub already has significant car parking, and you may know the particular premises in concern. This process is not concerned with wildlife. The process is not actually concerned with any existing noise from the garden, because all you're being asked to do here is license the external bar. And the process, of course, is not concerned with the value of any residents' property that live nearby although you may have sympathy with those concerns, I'm afraid none of those sit within the scheme of the licensing process. My client's position, insofar as the residents is concerned, is as follows. They are, of course, respectful of the concerns of the local community. As I said at the outset, it is a community pub that sits at the heart of the community and provides a wonderful facility for a very broad range of community members of that local community. But the pub has had few, if any, complaints made to them by the local community. Josh, who is on the call, and is the DPS, has been at this pub for 7 years. He's been in the trade for a total of 16 years. The head office at Green King has no record of any complaints from the local community being made to them at all. And the experience, as I've said already, from that Green King have, is that the concerns that the local community have raised in relation to this application are not borne out by the use of external bars elsewhere in the country, and contrary to what may be said in those representations, is that rather than undermining the licensing objectives, the introduction of an external bar does in fact go towards promoting those licensing objectives. Now, if the residents do have any concerns, then Green King and this pub in particular are very much an open book, and they are more than happy to engage with local residents, the local community, and they can contact him either by going to the pub or phoning him, or in whichever means that they are. But he would be more than happy to address those concerns. You also have the RBM, the regional business director. The BDM, the business development manager, and also the operations manager. That's Angela and Glenn, respectively, on the call, and they will be listening carefully to what is about to be said by those local residents. But they are more than happy to engage if there are, and I don't want to invite a review of the premises license here, but you will know as a committee that the ultimate sanction where premises are not upholding the licensing objectives. Oh, hello, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Something's just flashed up on my screen. I'm not quite sure what that was. I do apologize. There is, of course, the ultimate sanction of a review of the premises license. And I think that whilst one would hope that that would never come to pass, through a process of engagement and discussion, more than happy to do that and iron out any concerns that the local residents have. But the issues that they've raised do not go to the heart of what this application is all about, which is simply to license an external bar. That is all I have to say at the moment. I appreciate that I might have an opportunity at the end to summarize, but just 5 very quick points. It is your consideration today is limited to the licensing of an external bar. Additional conditions have been proposed. They promote the licensing objectives. The wider concerns about the operation of the pub, I'm afraid, don't sit within your consideration today. And finally, what I would say is that these are good, well-liked, well-run premises, and all parties will be better served through increased security, increased supervision in the premises, or in the garden, and also within the external bar, by the granting of this application. So I would invite you, members of the committee, to grant the application as applied for, and with the additional conditions that I've highlighted in my submissions. I said I was going to be brief, and I hope that I have been. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And if there are any questions that I'm unable to answer, then I have a team of people here from Green King who are more than capable, ready, willing, and able to assist me.
Thank you. Any questions from on the Flannery area licensing officer?
Nothing at the moment, thank you, Chair.
Any question from the review respondent?
No.
Any questions from the subcommittee?
No.
No, Rosie? No. I've got one. Page 13, the plan of the proposed new licence area.
You can come in on muted.
The map, which is only for this area which we are discussing, and this is the only area which interests at the moment. At the top of the map, which is just a blank, which runs on to Cumbria Close, there is a temporary, it looks like a temporary fencing, which has got bins, I assume, in. It's quite a large area. The temporary fencing is shoddily built, and it's not really finished. Now, you can then see the houses in Cumbria Close. As regards the rest of the site, it's all deeply treed and wooded, and I don't think a lot of sound or noise or light will escape. But this back end, which goes onto the close, you can actually see the house windows. They're the only house windows you can see from the three areas. Have you any comment on what this back area is used for? There's nothing on the map for it. I went up there the other Friday when the football match was on to see what was going on. Ewan or the
Yes,
landlord?
Councillor, I'm trying to find the document you're referring to, because I'm looking at the draw.
Page 13.
Is that page 13 of the report?
I assume so. Got it written down. 13.
Because there is a layout drawing that
That's
appears,
right.
I think, at page 11 of the PDF I've got.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
if it
on
helps if
13
I'm
on
able.
mine. It's on 13 on mine, so I assume it's the same drawing. It's a drawing prepared by SODA,
Yeah.
bottom right-hand corner.
Yes. Well, the bar that we're talking about is the. Am I able to share my screen? Is there any way that I can share my screen?
Richard?
Let me just enable screen sharing.
You've got the map in front of you anyway.
I have. I've got the drawing in front of me. Yes, I just want to make sure that we're talking about the right things.
The new bar, you've got the outdoor area, which is on the back of the original pub. You've got the bar on the right.
Yeah.
At the back, there's nothing. So there is a temporary fence in there, and I assume it'll be used for bins, and there could be old food put in there for disposal. I don't know what the arrangements are for that. But it's a temporary, but then again, the whole thing's temporary because they're not permanent buildings.
That's not a question I'm able to answer. It may be that Josh is able to answer. But what I would say is that, and I apologise if I know I've made this comment already a couple of times, is that the application itself concerns the licensing of the external bar. But should we want to? Oh, so Josh has just sent a note on the chat.
Chair and Mr. McGregor, I was just going to come in and say that Josh Teasdale has posted a message in the group chat advising that his microphone isn't working, but the area under discussion was an old outhouse and bar and is currently used as a bin store. It was unsafe and knocked down around 5 years ago. Just for completeness. Thank you.
There's a new fencing gone up. There was one last Friday for this area.
Chair, you're correct. There is a fence there, and it isn't safe.
If there is a concern about the fencing at the rear of the premises, then you have an ops director and a business development director on the call, and I'm sure that they will be listening carefully to what has been said, and will raise that with the pub after this call.
Yeah, I'm sure the brewers will sort it out.
Yes, apologies, Councillor. I believe the area you're talking about, there's at the bottom of the garden, there is an area where we've got a bin store. So there is a fence that circulates that bin store area. I believe that's the same area that you're talking about, unless, Josh, it's something different, because I've only had this put myself the last 5 months. So anything prior to that, I'm not aware of any old outhouses or anything else being in place. But I am aware that there is a bin store at the bottom of the garden. If that's what you're referring to, obviously, absolutely, I'll be able to pick that up and have a look and just check the state of the fencing.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. We'll move on. Any questions from the objectors to Mr. McGregor?
I was going to ask the drink vessels from the outside bar, will they be plastic? As it's an outside bar. Or will they glass?
My understanding is that it'll be the same glasses that are used inside that will be used in the external areas.
Because with respect, we have a lot of smashed glass around the surrounding area, which is a huge concern, as this is obviously a public walkway and also where we bring our children. With the concern is with this outdoor bar, the amount of glass that will continue to be smashed around the surrounding area is a huge concern.
The worst is just outside the pub and along Hillcrest Avenue, because we see it every morning on when we walk our children to school. There's lots of bottles, full glasses sometimes left on the wall, and also lots of smashed glass.
And with respect, you're saying that is of no concern to the licensing of this outdoor area, but it's a huge concern. This outdoor bar is going to be built in a built-up residential area that before the refurbishment of the outdoor area was built, the noise level has increased so dramatically, and the concern is how much the noise level is going to continue to increase. And also, very interestingly, you say that there's no consumption of alcohol after 11 o'clock, which us residents can confirm there is plenty. That bar outside, the outdoor garden is you can hear noise till almost 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So if you're now saying that is the time that everybody is to be put inside, then going forward, we will be making complaints.
Any questions from Irma, our licensing officer?
Nothing at the moment, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from other objectors?
Councillor, do you mind if I just deal with I'm quite happy to do it in one of two ways. To deal
Carry
with
on,
the point,
sir.
To deal with the points that have just been raised, or if all the objectors ask the questions, I can bundle them up and deal with them in one go.
Off you go, sir. The floor is yours.
I think the starting point is that the external area is better served by having the external bar there, because there will be increased supervision and there is increased security. I don't accept, and it's not the experience of Green King elsewhere, and indeed other operators, I've said already, that installations of bars actually increase or add to or create in and of themselves issues that undermine the licensing objectives. But again, the points that you've made and raised, we have senior members of the management team of Green King on here. We also have Josh on here, and I'm sure that they will act upon those post this hearing.
Thank you.
Could I say something, please?
Yes, quickly.
Okay. I'm a resident of Squires Walk, and
Firstly, I'd like to say that I'm not here to object, but just to ask for respect from Green King to our neighbourhood. We do value a public house in Spinney Hill, and we do regularly frequent. I'd like to thank you for your update on the licence variations sent across yesterday. Your assurance that the outside bar will cease serving at 10 o'clock latest, the behaviour in the garden will be supervised, and that the hours the garden will be open will not increase, does allay one of our main concerns. However, since the TV was put outside, noise from the garden has become an issue, and noise will now become more of an issue. And we would ask that Green King, as a responsible pub operator, takes some measures to alleviate this and to acknowledge the noise and disruption to neighbours by the installation of some form of sound barrier, such as acoustic fencing. Now, given the cost of the project to date, this would be a minimal investment. This would allow the pub to rightly benefit from the use of the garden, and for us, your neighbours, to experience a quality of life and mental well-being in our own gardens in the evenings. This may also assist in some way to resolving the issue of bottle throwing that some are experiencing. Thank you. That's all I wanted to get the message across to.
Thank you.
So Richard, can I just ask a question quickly, please?
Go on, James.
The person who came on was speaking just then, whose initials just show up as SP. Could you identify yourself? Please?
Yeah, sure. I'm Sophia Pugh, Squires Walk.
Sophia, you've just spoken for the majority there. Thank you very much. And as you said, the fence would be a minimal cost to what they've already implanted into the garden. So thank you very much for that.
No, that's fine. I mean, I strongly support the pub. I strongly support them increasing their business and going forward and having a fantastic pub in the area. I would just like Green King to acknowledge that we are their neighbours and to be a little bit more respectful back towards us, to our mental well-being and enjoyment of our own gardens.
Absolutely. And in response as well, that there's never been any complaints with Spinney Hill. Myself and my neighbours regularly phone in the summer to say, could they please sort out the noise level in the garden? And also saying that there's never any music in the garden. We've regularly had outdoor singers there. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate that.
No.
I think the main thing is, with the refurbishment, the pub has completely changed its customer base or its demographic. There's now a completely different demographic there. It's no longer so much of the locals. There's a lot of younger people there that see it as a destination pub. And I'm not saying that that's completely wrong, but along with that, I think comes different sorts of problems and probably a lot more antisocial behaviour. And that's what we've seen since the outdoor area has become has started to be used. And we have, maybe again, we're the same. We like having the pub there, and we don't want to stop it making money. We know it's a community pub, but it doesn't actually just serve the community anymore. It's actually, people come from quite far and wide now because they know the Spinney Hill pub is quite lively. It's lively later hours, later than 12 o'clock. And you're right, Cumberland Close isn't protected as much as Squires Walk, and even Squires Walk have a problem with noise. Our gardens, our children's bedrooms back onto the pub, and they have quite a lot of problems sleeping, and they have quite a lot of problems with, I have a problem with the language and the fights, etc., that go on in the garden, and that's because the demographic has changed. And whilst I know that you're saying that the outside bar won't make a big difference to that, I'm not sure that I agree totally with that. So I'm not saying I want to be a killjoy and say don't do it. It looks lovely and it's nice to have fun there, but maybe there could be to say that any sort of things that we're saying is irrelevant, I found quite insulting, to be honest. Because to say that the council and environmental officer has been consulted on it when they probably don't have to live here, and unless you come and actually check yourselves.
Yeah. And Chair, you said that you were here at the football. Well, you can appreciate.
I was there last Friday, but it was only one of the sub games. It wasn't one of the main games.
Oh well, it was a pity you weren't here on Tuesday then.
Yeah.
Because I think there was riot vans called.
But this is not every week. There's been no report from the police that riot vans were called. And it should have been recorded in the pub's documents if it was. No comment? We'll move on. Any more objectors? Or any questions for towards the objector from the committee?
Chair, Chair, it's James Chadwick, legal advisor again. May I ask a couple of questions to Mr. McGregor, please, just clear up something for my understanding, if that's okay.
Come on, sir. Come on, James.
Mr. McGregor, the license at page the plan at page 13 of the report, which I'm afraid I can't on the writing. So is the area covered by the premises license at the minute red, apart from the external bar area, which then also is in red? What is the area outlined in purple? I'm afraid I simply can't read what the legend says.
Yeah, I think that is a pergola that sits at the back of the pub, and if you look at the photos at Annex 1 of the submissions, so on the first photograph you have the external bar on the left hand side, which has a flag, and then you can see there's a I hope the pergola is the right word, but I'm going to use it anyway. But you can see the open structure at the back of the pub, and that's the line of the pergola.
Right, and is that part? Because apologies again. There doesn't seem to be a plan attached to the license, the premises license. But is that pergola part of the licensed premises?
It isn't. I think that those alterations were part of the approval back in January, February last year. It wasn't an application that my firm was involved in, but there was an application to vary the layout, a minor variation, and the plans that you have are the ones I understand that were submitted with the application back in, absent the external bar, were the ones that were submitted back in January 2023.
Okay. Final one was, I'm just looking through the premises license. It seems to have been mentioned that there's recorded music and possibly even live music outdoors. And I'm aware this isn't a review. This is just simply a question that I'm asking.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any unlicensed activities. There doesn't seem to be any mention of either playing of recorded music or live music in any outdoor area. That's really why I'm asking about what exactly is the extent of the premises license here, because everything on the license relating to music simply says indoors.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get my head around what the basis for outdoor recorded and live music is.
Sure. So a couple of points there. The first is that the Live Music Act, and we're sort of straying a little bit away from what the nature of the application is, but I'm more than happy to answer the question. The Live Music Act provides certain exemptions for playing of live and recorded music, and within the Live Music Act, and it is within the guidance, and I'll try and find it for you. Is that there are workplace exemptions which would include pub gardens.
Yes, Mr. McGregor. Yeah, that's fine. I was just wanting to ask you if you could confirm that was the case. So that just answers my question. Thank you very much.
Fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any more objectors to speak? Rosie, have you a question? Far away.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McGregor. You mentioned that in Green King's experience with other external bars, that it wouldn't increase outdoor use because of weather dependency, but presumably, given it's much more convenient to get a drink rather than go through to the pub to get a drink, it does increase alcohol consumption.
Not necessarily. It just means, I think, that people don't have to go inside and queue inside to get a drink, and they can simply get it from, they can purchase their drinks from the bar outside. So in and of themselves, I don't think it would be fair to say that it would increase consumption. It just makes it easier for customers who wish to purchase alcohol or soft drinks to be able to do so more easily, or without the need to have to queue at the bar inside.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
No questions from me. Anything from Councillor Bowen?
Yeah, just a question about security. Is the security that's going to be provided in the garden additional to the security that you have inside, or do you not have security inside at the moment?
So my understanding is that there's additional camera that will cover the external bar. I think there's a total of 16 cameras in total, 10 inside and 6 outside. And on busy nights, they also, although there's no requirement under the premises licenses, that door supervisors are engaged and they're employed, and they cover both the inside and the outside of the premises. And then if the bar is open, you will then have at least one member of staff who will be working in the bar. And the garden itself is supervised by members of staff, people constantly outside collecting empty glasses, crockery, knives, forks if people have been eating. So there is already supervision, and the direct answer to your question, Councillor Bowen, is that yes, there will be increased or enhanced supervision, both through CCTV and also by individuals, if this application is granted.
Okay, so there is no formal requirement. I'm just thinking about World Cup football events, rugby. I've recently been down to the final of the Saints rugby at Twickenham, and the thing that I noticed, which was most effective, was that they had security on the door, and they had security. They had a bar out in the garden, and they had a security person whose sole job was purely security. Because the problem is, if you're trying to collect glasses and be tidying up, your mind is not necessarily on the security and the behaviour of the individuals there. So I wonder whether this might be a thought that any live events or big events, such as the football and the rugby, that it is a condition that you do have security, a person, not a camera, a person that is employed, specifically for that purpose. So I raise that as a mitigation to the concerns raised by the residents.
So can I respond to that very quickly? I mean, I live in the West Country, and so you got the better of the Premier League final when you went there a few years ago. I support Bristol rather than Bath. That's the side of any discussion. So we were sort of probably ultimately on the same side.
It was actually last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
the final. Yes,
yeah.
Well, Saints versus Bath.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're being sidetracked. Door security, or SIA, is over and above the staff that are employed in the pub. So they are SIA registered door security. They're engaged on a Friday and a Saturday, and the need for door security on days where sport is being shown on the TV, that is already risk assessed, and it's something that Green King do as part of their management practices already at the pub. And insofar as the addition of a condition on the license is concerned, and I again, it's the second time I've made this apology, but it does bear repeating, is that all you're being asked to do as a committee is license the external bar, and it's not about live music or sport or whatever else it is. I've listened very carefully, as you all will have done, and this application perhaps is unusual in that we have 3, 4, 5 people from Green King on this call, all senior members of management, people who are the foot soldiers on the ground at the pub, and they will have listened very, very carefully to what has been said, and will take the appropriate action to attend to the concerns that have been raised by the local residents.
I'm going to go back on you on that. You know, as you've just said, the purpose is to agree or not as to the garden area and the licensing around that. But that is relevant to the behaviours of the individuals that will be there. So I do take not umbrance, but I think I get where you're coming from, and maybe it's a let's see how it goes. But I do think that the residents do have a point in terms of antisocial behaviour and being very specific in how that's dealt with. And I do know from the experiences I've had that when you do have employed security outside in those gardens where there is an additional bar, it is a deterrent to bad behaviour, and that is obviously going to be of benefit to the residents. But we'll finish that one there because there's no point in going back because we've got a difference of opinion there. But I do want to make that point.
That's fine, and I will pick that up at the end.
Sorry, we also want to say thank you, Lizzie, because it is all very relevant. Thank you.
And also, when you're talking about the security that's brought on for the matches, can that also cover the car park areas? There is sort of wooded areas and car park backing onto Squires Walk, and I know that residents there have experienced the bottle throwing.
Is there any more objectors to speak? Lot of background, no speaking. Is that all the objectors who have spoken? The party will now have opportunity to sum up. Our licensing officer first, I should think. Helena.
Thank you, Chair. I've nothing to add at this stage.
Thank you. Mr. McGregor.
I don't know if you want to invite the residents. I think it's normal course that the applicants have
sir.
I'm afraid have the last word.
I should take your advice, sir. Do the residents wish to sum up?
No, all's good.
Thank you. Thank you. We're back to you, Mr. McGregor.
So I apologise. Yes, me again, I'm afraid. Can I sort of take a step back from all of this? This is simply an application to license an external bar in the garden. A number of concerns and issues have been raised by the local residents. My clients have a number of people on this call. They will have listened very carefully to what has been said, and I'm sure will act on those concerns. But you are just licensing an external bar, and your consideration and any conditions that you attach to the license should be driven at and aimed at the licensing of that bar. And we have proposed 3 conditions, and those are in the submissions, and I've highlighted those during the course of what I've said. Had the police wanted us to provide security within the pub, it would have been the perfect opportunity on certain days or on days when sport is provided. This would have provided the perfect opportunity for them to invite that condition to be added to the license, but they have not. And the provision of door security is provided. It doesn't relate to the use of the external bar, and the external bar will now be supervised. So it would, in my submission, I appreciate that Councillor Bowen and I may have a difference of opinion on this, but the reality is that unless there is good reason and evidence to support the fact that the use of the external bar in and of itself requires the provision of door security and requires a condition to be attached to the license, and nothing I've heard on this call to date has suggested otherwise, then it would be improper for you to put a condition on the license in relation to door supervision. We are responsible operators. The manager is a responsible operator, and we already voluntarily do that, and that is the way that it should continue. And if it gets to a stage where there is a need for that condition to be added to the license, then that discussion would take place with the police, with officers, And if my clients were unwilling to offer that condition and add it to the license, then we would end up finding ourselves, we would be forced to do that in a review process. And I'm sure that that's not going to happen. I've set out at paragraphs 17 through to 23 the reasons why you should grant the application. There is one question: is this application, the licensing of the external bar, by this applicant at these premises likely to undermine the licensing objectives? And our position very clearly is that it won't. It will actually promote the licensing objectives through better security and through better supervision of the premises. I've set out the national guidance, and I've also made a reference to a case which your legal officer will be aware of. And the 3 points, and at paragraph 22, I think I've made 10 points as to the reasons why you should grant this. But just to highlight 3 or 4 of them, there are no representations to the application from the responsible authorities. The application is limited to the installation of an external bar. We have offered conditions. The external bar will not be in use every day, all day, every day, for the duration of the permitted hours. We are experienced, my clients are experienced operators. They've run these elsewhere. They don't in and of themselves undermine the licensing objectives. And finally, as a consequence, the position of you as a committee, the position of the responsible authorities, and the position of the residents is better protected by the granting of the license and with the conditions that we've offered. And that is all I've got to say, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody who's attended. We will now retire and make our decision. Thank you, everybody.
Chair,